All right, folks, in this lab, we are going to be modeling the processes of the rock cycle. But instead of using rocks, we're going to be using 3 different kinds of chocolate chips. So the first step in this lab is going to be to take our chocolate chips and weather them into smaller pieces. So I'm going to use my plastic knife to cut each of the different colors of chips into 3 to 4 smaller pieces, making sure to keep each of the colors separate. Here we are. I've cut the white, the butterscotch, and the chocolate into a bunch of different small pieces. So that was our first step. Our next step is going to be to deposit each of these pieces onto a piece of aluminum foil into layers. So I'm going to move my plates out of the way so I can put the foil down under the camera. All right, so there's my piece of foil. And doesn't matter which color goes first, but I'm going to put one color on the foil to make it into a nice even pile. Okay. Then I'm going to take another color and I'm going to put it on top of this color, trying to keep it in a nice even layer, get all the crumbs in there, level it out a little bit, and then I'm going to put this layer on top, again, making some nice layers here. And now I'm going to record my observations. So if you're doing this at home, feel free to make your sketches on any piece of paper, and then you're going to take a picture of your sketches and your written observations and upload them to this assignment post in Google Classroom. Now the fun part comes when I try and move the camera around to show you this from different angles. So the first thing you need to make an observation of is just a top-down view, so what it looks like from the top. So feel free to pause the video whenever you need to. And then we're also going to do a view from the side. So bear with me here, folks. Apologies if this is like weird and disorienting. There we go. So we're going to do a view from the side, kind of. Oh boy, that was, whew. We'll have to get some video editing here. Okay, there we go. So there's a view from the side, kind of. I promise this will get better the more often I do it. It's a little out of focus. Apologies. Okay. All right. So after you've made your observations of our pile of chocolate sediments, the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to wrap up the foil. So I'm just going to carefully, trying to keep my little rectangular shape here, I'm going to fold the foil over on top of my pile of chips. And then I'm going to take a few textbooks and I'm going to put some textbooks on top of this pile. Here I've got 3 textbooks. This is a great use for textbooks. We're going to put it on top and we're going to set a timer for 3 minutes. It's important when you're doing this that you don't press on the textbooks. You're simply going to let the textbooks sit for a total of 3 minutes. All right, now our 3 minutes is just about up. There we go. So after 3 minutes, I'm going to take the textbooks off of my little packet here, and I'm going to unfold it, and we're going to see what happens. Now be careful, because it's going to be a little fragile. All right, so here we go. Again, we're going to make our observations. If you look really closely, you can see that some of the pieces have gotten a little squished together after all that compaction that just happened when we squeezed this under the textbooks. So again, you're going to record your observations and make some sketches both from the top and from the side. I learned my lesson. This time I'm going to pause the camera while I get it situated in a side view for you. All right, and here's our view from the side. It's a little blurry. I apologize. I'll try and get it to refocus here. There we go. So there's our view from the side. All right. In that previous round, all we did was add pressure to these pieces of chocolate. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some heat and pressure using our hands. Now, so that we don't get our hands all chocolatey, of course, we're going to fold it up in the foil first. Again, trying to keep your little rectangle nice and neat. I'm actually going to go so far as to fold the edges under this time. And now what I'm going to do, if you're working with a group, you're going to have a couple different people that you can take turns doing this with. But I'm going to set a 30-second timer And I'm going to press on this with my hands, and I'm going to squeeze it in between my hands to generate some heat for 30 seconds at a time. So here we go. I'm going to squeeze for 30 seconds. Right, and this is our last round of pressing. I'm trying to get my whole body weight into this. I did 4 30-second rounds of this pressing with my hands. And now we're going to unwrap it and see what we got. Again, being very careful because, you know. All right, so it doesn't look a whole lot different initially, but if you look up close, you can see that the pieces have started to get pressed together a little more, and there's a lot, like I can even tip it and nothing really moves. So we've really started to squeeze these together and glue them together, okay? So again, we're gonna do our observations from the top. And then, so you guys don't have to go for a wild ride, I'm gonna pause the camera and move the camera to the side so you can do your observations from the side. Okay, here's our observations from the side. You can really start to see how these pieces, especially on the bottom, are starting to get squeezed together and rejoin with one another, especially after adding that heat from our hands. Okay? One last part, and then we're done. All right, so we've turned our chocolate chips into smaller pieces. We have squeezed them together under pressure. We have continued to use pressure and also added heat from our hands. The last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put these on a hot plate. We're gonna really heat them up. So I'm gonna fold up my foil packet once again, and we're gonna move this over to the hot plate, which should be nice and toasty. I'm gonna crank up the heat. All right, we're gonna move over to the hot plate. All right, so here we are on the other side of my desk. We've got a hot plate here. I assure you it is warm. I can feel the heat from it. I'm going to take this little foil pack full of our chocolate pieces and I'm going to put them on the hot plate and I'm going to leave them there for about 45 seconds. So I'm just going to use my phone as a timer again. And, oh, nope, not that. There we go, 45 seconds, okay? So in 45 seconds, we're then going to take this off the hot plate and we're going to let it cool. So my timer just went off, so now I'm going to take this off of the hot plate. I'm going to move it to the side. We're going to wait for about 10 minutes to give everything in here the chance to cool down before we open it up and take a look and see what's what. All right, so it's been just about 10 minutes. So now we're going to open up our foil packet for the last time and see what effect the hot plate had on these little pieces of chocolate. Ooh, I see some caramelization. Looks like it might still be a little melty, but, ooh, look at that. Okay, so mine didn't cool quite all the way, but we can definitely go ahead and make some observations of this. So, here we've got definite changes that have happened. So go ahead and record your observations, do your written descriptions from the top. And I'm gonna move the camera so we can do some observations from the side too. All right, and here we go. Here's our side view for this last round. So pause the video at any time, finish making your observations, and then when you're done, you're going to take a picture of all of your notes and observations and attach them to assignment 3.5 in Google Classroom. Then, when you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and get started on 3.6, which is the analysis questions that go along with this lab. And that's the part that is going to be graded along with your observations. Email me if you have any questions.